It looks like Elon Musk is going to buy Twitter, and just in time. I say just in time because Twitter was just about to up the ante on the censorship front. In fact, here's an article in the Associated Press. Twitter says it will no longer allow advertisers on its site who deny the scientific consensus on climate change, echoing a policy already in place at Google. So think about this. They're not only not permitting dissent, which is bad enough, but they won't even allow you to advertise a contrary point of view. Why? Because there's a scientific consensus, they say. First of all, it's a bogus consensus. It's a manufactured consensus. Most scientists believe in the greenhouse effect. But nevertheless, the point is not even that. The point is, let's say there was a consensus. So what? There's a consensus, for example, about relativity. Does that mean that no scientist can question Einstein's theory of relativity? If they question it, I believe they would be wrong on the merits. But there's nothing to prohibit people in a free society from saying what they think, from making arguments to back up their position. If the arguments are without merit, they fall by the wayside. So this idea that scientific consensus has to be put beyond question and people need to be shut down and shut up and advertising needs to be, this is outrageous. So here comes Elon Musk, and he truly is the white knight here, riding in on a horse to save us from all this. Save us from moving in the direction of totalitarian countries, which is apparently happening not only with the support of other tech moguls, people like Sundar Pichai at Google, people like Zuckerberg at Facebook, but also with the cheerleading of the media. We actually have a kind of apparatchik media that likes censorship and maybe even views censorship as the best way to protect their own failing business models. So Elon Musk has his task cut out for him, by the way. And merely owning Twitter, there are three things that I think Elon Musk needs to do right away. Essentially, when he moves into the building. Number one, fire the board. Remove all those characters, just kind of, if they're in the building, just kind of move them out into the street. Ask them to leave the premises and never return. They're out of here. Number two, there's a whole bunch of people at Twitter, and some of them have already started to say this, I feel very uncomfortable working for Elon Musk. You know what? Find out who all those people are and fire them. By the way, this isn't, Dinesh, are you advocating, you're supposed to be a critic of cancel culture. Are you advocating canceling those people? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. You know why? Because canceling people who are opposed to free speech is not a contradiction. You actually protect free speech by getting rid of people in power who block free speech. There's nothing contradictory or inconsistent or hypocritical about that. The enemies of free speech need to be moved out of a platform that is supposed to protect free speech. And number three, I would suggest that Elon Musk simply adopt a very simple policy position, which I'm loosely going to call the free speech pledge. And the free speech pledge can be summed up in a single sentence. If it's legal, you can say it. And that settles the whole issue. If it's legal, you can say it. Oh, but it offends me. Well, go someplace else. Or be offended because your offense is not a reason to cancel out somebody else's free speech rights any more than their offense is a right to cancel off your free speech rights. So grow up. And I think these three steps would be a giant blow for free speech, which we desperately need. I've noticed, by the way, in recent days, both Obama and Hillary have come out foursquare for censorship. And this is now reflecting a mainstream position in the Democratic Party. The Democrats are basically the party of censorship. So they're the party of abortion, they're the party of open borders, and they're the party of censorship. I mean, look at this survey, Pew Research Center. The U.S. government should take steps to restrict false info online, even if it limits freedom of speech. The U.S. government. Now, this is, by the way, constitutionally forbidden, right? The First Amendment, Congress shall make no law. And yet, Democrats or leaning Democrat, 65% in favor. And Republican, 28%. It's just disturbingly high for me, even among the Republicans. That number should be zero. But for Democrats, it is a sizable majority. And then, number two, tech companies should take steps to restrict false info online, even if it limits freedom of speech. Here, the Republicans are at 37, again, ridiculously high, but the Democrats are at 76. So we now have a major party that doesn't believe in free speech. And this is, in my view, a crisis. It's a crisis because although we have majority rule in America, majority rule means nothing if it is not circumscribed by minority rights. And those are the rights specified in the Bill of Rights, free speech being the very first one among them. So I think we're reaching that kind of point where we're going to have to push one way or the other. And look, it'll be less relevant if a couple of platforms practice censorship, as long as there are mainstream platforms that don't, and as long as we can build alternative platforms that grow. I'm happy to see, by the way, Truth Social is now expanding out to Apple customers who can get on Truth Social. My own following on Truth Social has surged. So there are heartening things that are occurring, but we need a lot more of them, so that we can live in a country where we don't just say we're free, but we actually are.